Now we call upon the panel discussion 3, the cooperative learning, how to get the best out of peer-to-peer interactions and to multiply learning using groups. Now the discussion points are cooperative learning techniques, positive interdependence and individual accountability. Think, pair and share. Now our panelists are, we would like to call our moderator, 𝗙cieህ𝗶𝗲𝗲. We have Mini Johnny, who is a treasurer, Bengaluru Sahodya Principal, 𝗙cieህ𝗶𝗶𝗲𝗃, Bengaluru. We are not sure if Dr. Venkata Raidu is here. Sir, if you're here, please join us on the stage. Yes, sir is here. Dr. Venkata Raidu Venigala, who is the CEO and Principal of GM Hallamma PU College, Davangere. So he's come all the way from Davangere. Vaishnavi Raj HN, who is the Principal, Royal Concord International School, Bengaluru. We would like to have you here, ma'am. Dr. 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, who is the Principal of Nurture International School, Bengaluru. We have with us Hamsa Venugopal, Managing Director, New Baldwin Group of Institution, Bengaluru. We would like to have you with us. And Amritanshu Kumar, who is the founder and director of KidX. Yeah. So the mic is with the moderator, already prepared. Yes, sir, the stage is all yours.
Sure, thank you so much. And I think this is going to be one of the biggest panelists, a lot of panelists on the dais. Thank you so much. A very good evening. Before we begin today's session, I think it's extremely important for each one of us to understand the important skill sets which are required for students to succeed in the 21st century. And as I was going through the article in the World Economic Forum about a month back, which clearly highlighted the various skills, like for example, project management, time management, emotional quotient, creativity, innovation, teamwork, resilience. These are some of the skills which are required for any student to come up, to perform, and to move up the ladder. So considering these in mind, our topic for today's panel is, how do we make the best from peer-to-peer learning and the learning groups? And my first question is going to be to Dr. Veena. Peer interaction actually focuses a foundation for the emotional development of a child. It focuses on self-esteem, learning, confidence levels. What do you think is the importance of peer interaction, and how do the schools, what's the role they are playing to ensure that the students are taking this in the right spirit?
Good evening, everyone. I would like to say the cooperative learning will be the basic foundation. I mean, the peer-to-peer interaction will be the basic foundation for the socio-emotional development of the child. This is very important. I mean, it starts from basically from the preschool aspect. I run a preschool. Am I audible? Yeah, thank you so much. So basically, this peer-to-peer interaction is mainly focused on the socio-emotional development of the child. How does it happen? I mean, here the cooperative learning is through the teacher's instructions. When the child comes to a school, whatever the guidance is informed by the teacher, and the guidance from the teacher will go to the child, and the child learns through the peers-to-peer interaction. Peer-to-peer interactions is basically the child learn many things through that, like playing, sharing, eating, and other many activities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So definitely say the peer-to-peer learning plays a very critical role. A child learns how to talk, what not to talk, how to control his emotions, how to behave, how to understand, how to interpret. So definitely it's playing a big role. My next question is going to be Mr. Zoeb Khan. Please share a few tips for effective peer-to-peer learning. We have all understood the importance of it, but how are we actually effectively implementing and executing this?
Hello, everybody. Considering today's situation and especially after the pandemic, the peer-to-peer learning has become very important. It is basically like a teamwork. Just to give you an example, what's happened, especially the students who are coming after pandemic to the school, there's one student in grade 1 who troubles and hits other children. And this has happened for the past 1.5 months. Now the teachers were complaining about it, or rather getting that to our notice and telling us that this child is troublesome in the class throughout the day. So what I actually did was I got the child out, did some counseling, understood what exactly the problem was. And the problem that came out was that when my parents hit me, why shouldn't be hitting my friends? That's what came out actually. So what we did was, the peer-to-peer training is what actually mattered to us here. In this time, what I did, I made the child pair with another child who is a very soft child, who understands, who is very cooperative. And with that, there is behavioral change in them. Parallelly, what I also did was, I also counseled the parents and made them understand that the child is actually learning. And one other thing that is very important in what's happened during the pandemic is that the parents are at home, where they were at home for quite long. And the child has observed everything, whether it's quarreling or the way they behave with each other. That is what has been inculcated. Now, this is the majority of the issues which come up with the students is because of these kind of issues when they are at home. So when we have counseled the parents and we have done a peer-to-peer training and we have made the child team up with another child who is very soft, so what has happened is there is a change. So this way of working, wherein the cooperating, the teamwork, making the child understand what is really important, this has made a change. And especially in today's times, it is very important that every child understands the framework of teamwork. Because anything that we do today, it is very important that the children understand how they have to work together as a team and nurture each other. It's like Sachin Tendulkar hitting a century and the team is not winning. So it really does not affect. So the working together, the understanding, the importance, the time management that they learn with each other, especially in a group, what happens is when they actually work with each other, there's some student or somebody in the team who cannot understand or give that 100%. But with this peer-to-peer learning and understanding, what happens is the other child pulls him up, makes him understand, because he doesn't want his team to lose. So with this understanding and with this cooperation, peer-to-peer learning is a benefit and it should be implemented in all schools. It's on a similar concept like how we have different houses, red, blue, green, yellow, and we cheer for our respective team. So this team building activity helps the child grow, and any student or any child who is not confident gets that confidence in the team, because somebody else is talking, he can be a part of it and he sees and learns. So this is the basic concept that's there, and this definitely helps the child, especially those children who are afraid to talk or who are afraid to come up and share their ideas. So this platform really helps.
Thank you so much, Mr. 𝗖𝗹𝗍. And definitely, yes, I've been working in the universities in the higher ed space. And when some of the parents come to me and actually tell that my son or daughter is doing this, I just tell them upfrontly, whatever a child is behaving, whether you like it or you don't like it, is a replica of what's happening at home. Okay? So it's very important that we as parents first learn how to conduct ourselves. We be a role model for our children so that the children behave properly in the schools and teachers can actually focus on the academia. So that's very important, 𝗖𝗹𝗍, and the way you actually, the way you handled the problem was really good actually. My next question is to 𝗍. How do you implement peer learning in the classrooms? Are you going to use videos, technologies? 𝗍? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, okay.
So good evening, everyone. Yeah, peer learning is a very, very important thing, especially like how Sir was saying, after the pandemic, because now we realize that children missed out being with each other during the last 2 years. And this is a great opportunity for us to implement. And yes, technology can be used for peer learning too. And a lot of projects that we give out in our schools, I'm sure all of you agree that nowadays children use technology for anything that they're, any assignment that they're given. So using of technology, I think the kids are far more equipped to use technology than we are. And of course, it will surely help them to work with each other in teams with the use of technology. Thank you.
Thank you for being short and sweet, all right. Okay, so the next question is to Dr. Sapna. I'm going to ask you on the cognitive development, which is one of the most important areas of development of a child. So if you could just share your views, how are the schools fostering the cognitive development? Because children are actually compared, what I say, to little scientists. They want to explore, they want to learn new things. They do not want the traditional theory stuff. They want to practically engage and learn. So how are the schools fostering the cognitive development?
Yeah, good evening all. I run a butterfly Montessori where the small children are there. With them to make a cognitive development in a group this thing, what I do is I found out one good thing. I used to randomly give the topics for the 4 of the children. For example, it is pick up one fruit, pick up one toy, pick up one animal, and any random like that. So I used to ask them to think about it. Then later, the 4 of them grouped together with a creative work. We used to give a chart paper and the crayons and everything and ask them to create a creature from the fruit, from the toy, from the whatever the animal they say, taking the face of it or a leg of it or something like that, so that they think about all these things and they create a new version of an animal. As well as what they used to do, we used to ask them to think about a name for that. So children are so smart, the young age of 4 and 5 years, they have created an animal called, with the toy yo-yo and the lion and the pumpkin, as well as the one of the 3, if I'm not wrong. So they created that one and they pick up the names from the first name of all the animal names, animal and the toy name, and they created one of the beautiful picture of that. So there is a creative learning as well as the thinking, and they are in a group. Those they are not very good in drawing also, they are try to emote those things. So like that, in our school we put it across in the group learning, so that this is what it is.
Sure. Thanks, Dr. Sapna. Yes, the best way to teach children is to practically engage them and not doing a monologue in the class or having just a theoretical concept. My next question is going to be Mini Johnny. Okay. The WAC learning model divides all the learners into 3 categories. Okay, the visual learners, who actually absorb information through sight, auditory learners who absorb information through sound, and kinesthetic learners who absorb information through moving through action. So what is the role of the learning styles, the WAC learning styles in education?
So good afternoon, everyone. Oh, sorry, good evening, everyone. So cooperative learning is one learning where we apply or we focus on all the 3 styles of learning of the students. They may be auditory, visual, or psychomotor. As the taxonomy of Bloom's says, here we have different teaching learning activities we take up. Suppose if a child provided an opportunity, that is we give now as the NEP says, collaborative learning. So where a group is created, a teacher is creating a structured group. It has different strategies called jigsaw puzzle, World Cafe, and many more activities are there. The children are able to think for some time and they are able to express in the way they are able to express. It can be in visual form, auditory, or psychomotor. We aim at developing the holistic education, and when a group of children are there, their creativity and critical thinking are they express in the best form when they are in groups. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am.
Did I answer your question?
Oh, yes, yes, why not? Sure. My next question is going to be Vaishnavi. Okay. Yeah. In order for the cooperative learning groups to be successful, the teachers and the students have to play their individual hats. They have to wear the individual hats. They play individual roles. And cooperative learning is basically where students divide into a group for a common cause, wherein a teacher kindly observes them. So what do you think is the role of a teacher today? Does the teacher just teach, or the teacher is a facilitator and observer? Could you please share your views?
Good evening, one and all. So, it's a privilege for me to express my views to everyone. So, a very good question, sir. So, teacher should act as a facilitator, sometimes coach, sometimes mentor. Teacher is no more a teacher now. So, she or he takes a different role. So, based on whatever activity we have given, whether it may be academic or non-academic, so to bring out the outcome, so of that, so the teacher has to implement various strategies. So, wherein they have to bring it, all the group of the children, though we assign some work or whatever assignments, so they may not be working towards the goal. So, we have to check, monitor, and intervene and understand where they are heading towards, and if they are deviating and if they are not according to what our expectations, so probably we have to instruct them, motivate them, inspire them, give them a lot of opportunities, and also give them some awards, rewards, recognition, so they will come up, they will get motivated. So if one person, if one in a group gets motivated, automatically the group members will recharge themselves. So it is like good things are always contagious. So let it be contagious, let it infect others also. So I think apart from that, so when we used to, most of the time what happens, educators group them at the end of the academic year to get the better results. So 90 plus one group, platinum group, 80 plus silver, gold, like that. So this is called as ability grouping, where we want to achieve, actually if they are getting 90 plus, we want to get them much more. So here what I generally suggest, in my view what happens, generally we have to group them not according to their scores or whatever. Sometimes it is better than, sometimes we let us give them a chance to group themselves, and also each one of them learn from each other. So each one teach one, something like that. So the skill, and we learn from everybody, not only the children. When they come to the school, they not only learn from the teacher, rest of the complete environment matters a lot. It may be a helper, it may be a teacher, it may be a headmaster, so it may be an office. So it is a holistic, it is so each and everybody is equally responsible. I think the teacher intervention is very much required, and hand-holding is required. Thank you.
Thanks, Vaishnavi ma'am. And yes, today the teaching, suppose a person just restricts himself or herself to teaching, they have lost the game actually, because they have to play the role of a facilitator today, because children are highly knowledgeable. I mean, they have all the required access and all the information in the world today. So it's important that a teacher plays the role of a facilitator, a mentor, and a guide to a student. Thank you so much. My next question is going to be Dr. 𝗙𝗵𝗲. There are a lot of common cooperative learning techniques like jigsaw, round robin, think, pair, share, team, pair, solo, which if you could just throw light on any one of the techniques which are the most powerful and effective.
Very good one. Good evening to everyone. Actually, I was wishing that this question should come to me because two things just. I'll associate cooperative learning or whatever we are discussing. As of now, my fellow members have made it very clear. Few keywords like ownership that comes along with it, like teamwork that comes along with it. And I will borrow the line from Sudhanshu sir, is that from morning, knowingly or unknowingly, we are undergoing cooperative learning in a homogeneous group with our individual differences. Now, coming to the strategies, my personal favorite is actually jigsaw, that I have applied with the home group and the expert group. Why I am saying jigsaw is, I'm sure as a strategy we all know how to implement jigsaw in classroom, but the advantage over there is that the ownership becomes high. When the child is in a home group, gets a particular question, goes in the expert group, gets the expertise, comes back to the home group, explains to the fellow members, and then gets a chance to present maybe. That ownership is very high, and individual learning is as well as very high in terms of jigsaw. Although what I am going to share now is not exactly an example of jigsaw, but I'll take half a minute, sir, please. Why? Because it's a wonderful experience for me for cooperative learning. In NCERT class 7th, we have a chapter that relates with setting agenda by media for democracy. You can understand the heavy keywords here in terms of class 7th. They won't understand how media is going to set up an agenda for democracy. We took the challenge in a way that we did it through a role play. And the whole class was divided into groups. One thing I would suggest that even if it's jigsaw, even if it is role play or any other strategy, the learning outcome that we are expecting from the children should be made very clear to them. So we explained them that we want you to take up any event of the school and you have to present it through any form of media. Be it social media, newspaper, magazine, panel discussion, it could be anything. So different 5 groups were there. Each group covered the student council elections of the school in a different way, like newspaper reporting, social media reporting. The result was, at the end of all 5 role plays, each of them were clear how media works in setting up the agenda. So this is how cooperative learning works, where individual accountability is coming along with ownership. They are learning in their age-appropriate manner. They may not relate with what we are trying to say, but they will definitely relate with their fellow members in class. So cooperative learning is how creatively we can use it. As a teacher, it will always give you the best results in terms of learning. That is what I feel. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yeah. Definitely today, even from an HR point of view, when we take interviews, it's actually the role plays, case studies, which helps the students to crack the interviews finally. So especially if you could see your passion coming out for cooperative learning, the jigsaw. Thank you so much, Dr. 𝗍𝗶𝗍. My next question is going to be to 𝗖cie. She's not here? Okay, I'm going to open question. Anybody can answer this, okay? So the question is on positive interdependence, which mainly focuses that we need all the team members for this in order for us to be successful. For example, like a 3-legged race. Either you swim or you sing together. Choice is yours. So if you could just highlight, if anyone would like to highlight the importance of positive interdependence at schools. How do you teach them at schools? Anyone? Anyone would like to?
Just one more example only. Theory we all know. Saturdays in our school, we have a skill day, and we have bagless days, bagless Saturdays, where we only talk about any particular skill through various ways. In the assembly, I started with a practice of recreating any story that you have done from beginning, be it the crow, thirsty crow, be it the rabbit and the tortoise, all that. So today morning also, and earlier Saturdays also, I experienced, I gave them the task. The whole school is there on ground. I gave them the task of, okay, this is your story. You need to recreate it. You need to get it done in order. And then you have to come out with a moral. They divided them in groups. That thirsty crow story, I got 4 versions today morning in my assembly only. 4 versions, be it from grade 1 or 2 or grade 9 or 10. They came up with their different versions with their different morals also. In one of that, the crow actually died, and the group was saying that over-smartness does not going to work. Actually, one version was that. What I'm trying to say is, it was a beautiful interdependence where they got a task. They were doing it according to their mindset, their experiences of life till now. And then they came out with a wonderful version of an old story. So this is where they felt like, okay, we created something through depending with each other, working with each other, and coming out with a new version of it. This is what we need to create even in our classrooms if we are talking about this cooperative learning and other things. So this is how positive interdependence can come out with new versions of what we are teaching them from ages actually.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. 𝗍𝗶𝗍. In fact, this is exactly what is required in the corporate world. I mean, when actually your students hit the job market, when they join companies, I mean, there will be teams, somebody will perform, somebody may not perform. So how the person actually helps other team members, takes up responsibility, shares the workload, that actually is starting, I mean, these qualities should be taught right from school. I think this is going to be highly helpful for the students in their future. Thank you so much. My next question is going to be Hamsa Venugopal. It's going to, yeah, I'm sorry, ma'am. Yeah, it's going to focus on individual accountability because students learn together, but they have to perform individually. Just like when today when any person joins the industry, we give them goal sheet. Goals are defined as SMART goals. SMART is an acronym: specific, measurable, accountable, realistic, time-bound. No stories, nothing else. Very clear what your deliverables are. So how do you think is individual accountability important? And if yes, how are these qualities inculcated and taught up at a school level?
Beautiful evening, one and all. I love the question, and I was sincerely praying that, this accountability shoots to me. Because, I'm 𝗖𝗶𝗶𝗶𝗃. So I would like to start with a saying which most of the educators here love. That is, when you tell me, I forget. When you teach me, I remember. When you involve me, I learn. So that's all about today's panel, what we are talking about, be it different terminology used. And when in the question rightly asked about accountability, the entire collaborative learning and the entire concept of peer learning, the first thing I would scale upon is accountability, right? So accountability is something which is lagging a lot in today's, education process, what's happening. And this concept of collaborative learning gives her huge, I would say it's a most active pedagogy to be used to bring in accountability to the kids. And I would just go by saying what happened in my school so that gives a broader perspective of this accountability. Like, there's one branch, New Baldwin in Mandur. We have a lake. Like most of the lakes, it's been dirtied, it's polluted because of the industries there. So we gave a task for the students to pick up any one sustainable development, and my students came out with this big project telling that we want to recycle and filter this lake. So there was a big question mark on my face, like, it's not a STP or it's not a tank. They said, no, ma'am, we'll do it. So then finally they divided the team into different sectors, departments, like one going for the testing of the water, one doing the soil testing, one group went to the companies to understand what is the waste which is being disposed outside. And then they came up as a group, they collaborated with each other. We called the local minister there and gave a presentation, what can be done for this lake to be cleaned and to have a better environment in that particular area. So after that, I'm sure this group of students stopped littering inside the classroom. They stopped littering inside the garden. They stopped pulling out the mangoes and leaves and whatever was there in the garden. Because this sense of working together and finding out the problem and coming out with a solution, they understood that we are accountable for the sustainable development. The collaborative learning, the pedagogy what we used there, gave them the sense of accountability to this nature. And I'm sure these group of students tomorrow are going to be a great citizen of this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hamsa ma'am. And I think the other side of the coin would be, while we are focusing on individual accountability and given a wonderful example, it's also important to understand that these students, when they're working in the industry, they don't hitchhike. I repeat, they don't hitchhike on the work of others. Okay? Typically, what happens in the corporate world is they showcase, I have been doing this and this, but actually the work is done by someone else. So the individual accountability shows both aspects, to ensure that you only showcase what you have done and not what others have done. Thank you so much, Hamsa. Now, my next question is to Amritanshu Kumar. We have heard him in the morning session, and he's been doing a phenomenal job. My question to you would be that CBSE has developed a skill module on design thinking and innovation and tie up with the Innovation Cell of the Education Ministry and IIT Mumbai, focusing on creativity and experiential learning. So what would be your views on the concept of design thinking being introduced at school level?
Thank you. So CBSE has introduced a new policy, which is NIEPP, which is introducing entrepreneurship amongst school students from class 6 to class 12. It goes at length at identifying if a child comes up with a new venture what would be the equity share between the teachers, individuals, that goes towards the lens. So that's the policy, first of all. In terms of design thinking, there are two major components towards it. One is the cognitive skills of an individual, which comes through academia, through, let's say, tech. And the second part, which is creativity and imagination. In design thinking, you're trying to create something which probably you have not seen it in front of you. You're thinking in your head, or you're drafting it somewhere where you're able to see what the final outcome should be. That's the design thinking. And you need both the aspects, creativity and imagination, as well as the cognitive aspects. Why it is needed in the formative years is, fortunately or unfortunately, the creativity and imagination aspect of things, they are built in the formative years. When you go to college, you're already boxed in the way of the way you had been taught or what you have been brought up. You have lost, or probably have lost, the way of learning a new creative aspect of things. We at KidX, we are proud to host ATL Tinkerpreneur, which is to promote entrepreneurship by Atal Innovation Mission Niti Aayog, as well as ATL Marathon, which is about problem solving and design thinking. And that is also hosted on KidX platform as such. What we see that in terms of the peer-to-peer learning, we have a peer-to-peer learning platform on our app, which is called Circles. Students, as let's say of an age of 7 years, 8 years, they come up with their own ventures. They come up with their full-fledged business development plan with a product in place properly using the design thinking framework. One way to go about why it is needed in formative years, and second, to say that these guys are well capable of handling that at those years as well.
Thank you so much, Amritanshu. And yes, definitely, the two qualities which are required again in the corporate industry would be creativity and innovation. Extremely, extremely important. And how it's actually, the genesis of that would lie, one, the students are exposed and trained in design thinking. That's the reason actually today a lot of workshops we have been conducting for FDP, the faculty development programs for the senior academicians, only because once they are clear, they will be able to pass on this important information to the students. Thank you so much, Amritanshu. My last question is to 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲. We have worked together in Pearson's earlier, so I'm taking the liberty to ask a very open-ended question. 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, you have a very vast experience, especially in the academics. What would be some of the best practices which you have kind of implemented and which has really helped the students to come up?
Thank you for asking that question. Good evening, everyone. Once again, my name is 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, and Ashish, thank you for having me on this panel, this mega panel, I should say. And it's very cold, and I might just drop my mic, so excuse me, everyone. So, before I actually address your question directly, just one quick thing that I'm very impressed that you asked the question around design thinking, because actually the topic of the day, design thinking, is extremely relevant because that's where everything comes together. Design thinking is all about connectedness, right? And this is what we are trying to build here, which is by working with each other, how do you connect and how do you realize that you're a part of a whole? The Gaia principle and topics like that. Also, one interesting point that you made around positive interdependence. Those of you who are familiar with the concept of positive psychology, and how it is built inside of a school and among students, will see how clearly positive psychology can be built through many of the tools and strategies that we've been discussing over here today, right? And that includes positive interdependence. But the how, and now I come to the question that you've asked, it's always a how, isn't it? Where, when finally we come to implementation, all the knowledge, the theories, sometimes come to a grinding halt. And, then we're left wondering, now what do we do? And how do we actually translate all those wonderful ideas and theories into practice on ground? So I think some of the things that I've seen, and including the name of the organizations that you've mentioned and others, I'll approach this as an academic and someone, as a former academic director of schools. As a business person, you know, someone who sat on the management side of things, who's actually running the schools from that perspective, helping to actually implement. As a parent, and also as a parent volunteer at a very beautiful school that some of you may be aware of called 𝗟𝗏𝗶𝗲. Are any of you aware of this school? Okay, that's lovely. I'm very heartened to see that. 𝗟𝗏𝗶𝗲 is a school that follows 𝗙ષि Aurobindo's principle of education very, very closely, and probably in one of the closest ways possible. Of course, there are other schools like Mothers and so on, and in Pondicherry there are other schools. But the way that the implementation happens, I think, you know, I've seen each and everything that we're discussing here today implemented in that space. And I'll touch upon 3 or 4 different kind of things that I've seen happen. One of the first thing I would refer to is mindset, you know, the willingness, the preparedness mentally and, you know, physically, spiritually to actually approach the problems or the outcomes that we are trying to kind of produce, right? So the mindset is the first thing. And when I say mindset, it includes all the stakeholders. How do you shift the mindset that, you know, this is a new kind of a learning, or this is one way to learn, because many of us will have grown up with a certain way of learning as a parent or been a teacher for 20 years and taught in a certain way and all of that. But having said the word mindset, I would say that, you know, learning in groups or group learning or project-based learning, you know, all of these concepts have been around for a long time. And the good thing is that we've also been implementing this for a good amount of time as well. So let's say that the mindset, you know, most of us in this room as academics, we understand and we've implemented it for many, many years already. I think the second thing that I would look at is the pedagogy itself, and especially when we have a group of schools, you know, when we have, let's say, not just a single standalone school, but people who are from chains of schools, or even 2 schools and so on, or a very large school where there are multiple classrooms. How do you implement these kinds of techniques and the strategies that we've been discussing here today? Because you need certain kinds of tools, you need certain kinds of spaces. You know, the entire school needs to be organized in a certain way. The spaces need to be available, the kind of resources that you need are different. So I think, you know, the pedagogy, the people who are designing the curricula, but more importantly, the pedagogy, the delivery of the curriculum, need to really take a hard look at what they have, you know, what resources they have, what resources they need. The third thing I will refer to is the teachers, you know, the preparedness of the teachers. So here I'll refer to teacher training and the strategies and the tools and the resources that are being given to her to be effective in the classroom. But, you know, one thing that I really care about very deeply is, please, can we not be prescriptive, you know? The teacher needs her space to actually implement. And this is something, you know, when I have actually handled a very large group of schools, we've always said this, you know, please don't be prescriptive to what the teacher is going to do inside of the classroom. She knows her students best. And leave it to her. I mean, make the pedagogy, make the lesson plans, all of that is fine, but then let her finally, you know, do the last mile, and that's implementation. The last mile, you know, you have to trust the teacher. So I think that is very important. That's, again, a part of the mindset also. And the last thing I will say is that the schools that actually are adopting this kind of strategy or this kind of education need to be prepared for it, to do all of these things that I'm doing. The first, need to have the mindset for it. Secondly, they need to enable the teachers by constantly, you know, helping them. This is a different kind of teaching. It's not, you know, like, something that many of them will have done in the past. So support them. Do not be too prescriptive. Again, all of this, you know, it is something that schools need to be very, very friendly and supportive of the process. And provide the spaces, you know, if the building is in a certain way, shift things and so on. So I would say these are some of the tips and, you know, ways that I have seen implementation of different kinds of pedagogies and techniques. You know.
Thanks, 𝗟𝗶𝗲, very beautifully coined. Pedagogy, lesson plans, delivery, the teacher, the lessons, you know, very beautifully articulated. And I think one of the most important aspects is why in the schools, what you're teaching students is the knowledge and the skills. One of the most important area which is going to play a bigger role in the child's future is the attitude. Today, we know CEOs are hired for their IQ, intellectual quotient, but are fired for their EQs. Okay, emotional quotient. They are not sympathetic. Okay, or for that matter, LQ, learning quotient, spiritual quotient. So my point is, in schools and colleges, we only teach about the IQ, but we are missing on the larger chunk, which is on the other aspects. So it's very important for us as academicians, as trainers, as leaders in the education space to ensure a child is fully trained. Secondly, one important aspect which you need to understand is that the times have changed drastically. I repeat, times of today have changed drastically. I'm just going to share a couple of examples. We have the Swiggy, who has launched the moonlighting policy just 3 days back. Okay, gone are the days like hired to retire in HR, we used to call those jargons, right? एक ही आज join होगा, जब 60 हो retired होगा, then he's going to walk out. No. Today, an average tenure of an employee, if it is 2.5 years, it's a big blow for our HR professionals, because the students want different, the individuals want different experiences, different benefits, and today we are all working in a different gen set. It's a mixed gen set. We have the baby boomers, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, millennials, alpha generation, all of them working simultaneously at one organization. Are we training our students for diversity, equity, and inclusivity? Okay, which is considering the LGBTQ workforce, the lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgenders, and queers. My point is, during our times, these things were unheard of, but today's reality is completely different. The point is how we are actually training our students. Initially, I was talking a lot of universities, but today I'm thinking that these matters should be discussed at school level, not at a graduate level when his actually concepts are already fundamental, already processed, and he or she is a failure. But I think the onus lies to each one of us to imbibe these qualities in the students. So it's very important that we give our best shot to the students. And last but not the least, I would like to personally and professionally thank each and everyone present in this room for making the change, driving the change making ensure our students are ready for the 21st century. Thank you so much, and can we have a big round of applause for everyone? Sure. Thank you so much.
You could see one speciality of 𝗙cie sir. He's taken all the 12 panel people right here on the 12th edition summit, right? It's really aligning so well. Like as we were speaking about aligning children's personality, be it the freedom or discipline, being two faces of the coins, being Montessori or anything, like, being the inborn intelligence or acquired skills, all is what is to give freedom and of course help the child towards it, right? So here, this is an immense pleasure for me to call Sangeeta 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲. Spoken? Okay. I think Venkata sir is not. Sir, we would like to. Just 2 words from you, sir, please.
Sorry, I was told you are not coming, but you are here. Sorry for that. Maybe you can just share one line at least so that we have 100% participation.
Thank you very much for selecting me in this panel. I am taking care of higher secondary and degree colleges as a CEO, and there are a lot of difference between school teachings and everything when I am afraid to answer your questions. I think God bless me also. Thank you.
So I think you have the skill of bringing people together, and that's why you have with the group, right? The educational group. So the name speaks it all. Well, sir, now it's an immense pleasure to call Sangeeta 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲, please. She's an Indian actress and a model from Sringeri, Karnataka, and sharing the same name. I'm so happy. Well, she's recently done a blockbuster movie, 777 Charlie. I think all have seen this movie. Yes? So we have fans, ma'am, for you here. So many of you. Right. She's doing her various movies, and she studied in Kendra Vidyalaya School and an Air Force officer daughter. That's really nice. And I call upon Dr. Shashi, Lata ma'am, and also Manmeet Kurana sir. So how have you felt being amongst educationalists? Good, right? Too much for the brain. So nice. Now I call upon Naveen Mishra sir to come here. Naveen Mishra sir from Power School. Yeah, to felicitate all the panel discussion people. Yeah. I call upon the moderator, 𝗙cieህ𝗵𝗲 sir. Dr. Veena. I request Manmeet sir also to please join. Dr. Veena. I call upon Zohaib Khan, sir. Now I call upon 𝗙cie𝗹𝗹𝗲𝗰𝗁 Thomas. It's all right. We are comfortable. No problem. We call upon Dr. Sapna S. We call upon Mini Johnny. And now the man who spoke less, Dr. 𝗟𝗶𝗸𝗲. He's all the way from Davangere. Vaishnavi Raj, HN. Please come, ma'am. Now we call upon Dr. Deepti Chaturvedi. Hamsa Venugopal, ma'am. We call upon Sharbari, ma'am. And the last to go is Amritanshu Kumar. Amritanshu is remembered for Amrit Mahotsav. So I've connected and linked your name like that. Thank you so much.